we're starting with a centered piece of clay. I'm using 2 pounds for a bowl. Since clay shrinks when it's fired, probably about 14% throughout the whole process. One way to control the diameter of the base of your bowl is to kind of push down a little lower on the clay so that it's a little lower and flatter. Okay, and I'll do that with bowls. Okay, the next step is no different from the cylinder. Going down into the center with my thumbs together, stopping about 1/2 inch shy of the wheel head, measuring it the same way we do with the cylinder, following it through with our middle finger, and there you go, 1/2 inch. This is the fundamental difference between a cylinder and a bowl, this next step here. So the main difference between the cylinder and the bowl is that the cylinder has a 90-degree angle where the base meets the wall, and the bowl is going to have a curved base. So the base is going to curve gently into the wall. So same thing, putting the pressure on that middle finger, but as I'm expanding the base, you're not going to curve that finger under. You're actually going to kind of swoop it up. So here we go. So coming back, and here's where we start our swoop, and you can see that reflected in the wall of the clay, the wall and the base. Now we're going to compress with that same idea of taking something that is fluffy and making it more dense, having one hand, the left hand, really support the right hand. So I like to think of my right hand as the tool, reinforcing the curve. And my left hand is just sort of directing this tool. So just compress, compress, compress. And a tool I find very useful is this little rib here. It's a mud tool rib. I use it at the base. And it's nice to bring in the rib because if you're doing sets of something, it's going to give you a consistent curve throughout your forms. So that's just something to keep in mind. Little rim compression. And I'm going to actually use my sponge to do the first compression. And that's kind of going to take care of this area that's a little bit not so approachable. So I'm going to use my left hand finger as to support the inner wall, and of course it has backup right here with those other fingers, and just lay in some pressure at the base there and move upward. So I'm kind of doing that wall pull on the inside. Okay, for the next pull, I'm going to make the ledge, just like with the cylinder. And I'm going to do the butterfly. Add a little water. And getting under that wall with the left hand and compressing the fingers together, moving upward and also moving outward. Add a little water. And I'm going to do more pushing with the outside finger pushing in, and the inside finger is really just acting to brace that wall so that I don't lose that curve. And then I move up the wall, and we're not making a cylinder, we're making a bowl, so there's no need to go straight up. And it might be that you extract a little bit of clay. That's okay, that's all right. and compress the rim. Make my ledge at the base. So I'm already on my third pull here. I might do a fourth pull. Okay, so supporting those fingers with the butterfly or whatever's comfortable at this point, and really pushing out towards the inside and moving up that wall. I tend to keep my rims a little thicker in case I want to bring that bowl out a little more, but I'm really trying to establish shape as I'm making my pulls. So, okay, I'm going to do one more pull here. Really just working on the wall thickness, making sure it's consistent. The consistent wall thickness is more important than making something thin. When you make something thin, it's also more delicate and it's harder to handle. So right now, when you're starting out, we're focusing on control a little more. Once you gain the control, then you can start making things thinner. So the next step, I'm just going to come in with my rib and rediscover that curve that I made at the very beginning. Notice how I'm supporting one hand with the other hand and just rolling down that wall. And it's still there because that clay, it remembers. Now I'm going to take the other side of the tool on the round side of the outside of the form, and I'm going to go ahead and compress on the outside. Gently push from the inside out against that rib. One more time. I'm looking at the left side of the piece, but I'm putting the pressure on the right side just to reinforce the curve on the inside in case I distorted the shape at all. Compressing the outside and compress my rim one last time. You can also do this with the chamois on the rim. If your clay has grog in it, it's just going to push the grog back and make the rim nice and smooth. It's nice to keep your rim a little thicker. This is the area that's exposed. This is the area that can easily be chipped. Okay, and now we're just going to trim up the base a little bit, the same way we did with the cylinder. So approaching the form at a 45 degree angle and extracting that ribbon of clay. So ultimately what we're looking for is the curve of the wall. So you want to look at what you just did. So I tend to put pressure on one side of my piece and look at the other side. So I look at what I just did. Okay, so now we're ready to take the form off. My hands are clean and dry. Thumbs against the wheel head, and I'm going to pull the tool towards me. Left hand thumb down, right hand thumb up, and wrap my fingers around the base. It's a little lift there, and set it down. So there you go, very little distortion, and that's mostly because the form isn't extremely thin. It's probably a 1/4 inch thick. I have a 1/2 inch at the base, and there's not a lot of sludge on the walls. So those three factors make it very easy for me to take the piece off the wheel so that I don't have to use a bat. And we'll get to bats when we start throwing the plate.